A warm greeting to all of you children. Hope you all doing good. I'm Shanta Kumar, who's going to be a physics teacher in this academic year. In today's session, we are going to look into a new chapter called Sources of Energy, which is the 14th chapter of our science content. So, as we have started with the chapter called Sources of Energy, we might have just heard about the term called energy. Every day in our day-to-day life activity, we come with this particular term, energy. For example, to do some work, we used to say that we need energy. The entire day you have been accompanied with some activities. Either it might be a learning process, or you might be helping your parents at home, or you might be playing with your friends. Whatever you just do, by the end of the day, you just come with the term, I have lost my energy. So what is actually energy? What do you mean by energy? So in this entire chapter and in this video session, we are going to look into the concept of energy. What do you mean by energy? And where do we get this energy from? And what are the different sources of energy do we have? So here, first of all, when we just come with the term energy, the term energy is nothing but the ability to do some work. That is what called as energy. So when we just say here, energy is defined as where energy is the ability to do work. That is what we just call it as energy. For example, just imagine we have been performing different tasks in our daily life. For example, once we wake up in the morning, you get ready. Either you go to school, or you may be doing some activity at the home, or you may be playing along with your friends, and whatever you do, or for example even just lifting some object from one place to another place, to do that activity where we need energy. So energy is the essential thing which makes things get done. So to do some work or to perform some task, we all need energy. For example, we humans, how do we get energy? Fine. At once, when we say that how do we get energy, we come with the idea that once we eat food, from the food we get energy. That is the most concept what you all may have. Of course, that's right. When we eat food, what happens? When the food content gets burnt out and it gets digested and it gets converted into energy, and with the help of those energy we do various tasks. Either it might be exercise, or it might be doing some work, or as I just mentioned, playing or eating or walking or running. It might be any different task. Whatever we perform, we need energy. Okay, fine. So if we have been just talking about the energy, what we human get, as we all just say that when we just talk about the living organisms, okay, where the living organisms, they get food they get energy from the food, whatever they intake. But in our real life existence, energy is not only needed by the living organisms, but also the non-living, or maybe either it might be a machinery parts, or it might be a vehicle, or it might be a television, or it might be a fan or AC or refrigerator, or it might be a bike, whatever it might be, where to work it needs energy. So where do all these different circumstances get energy from? And especially when we just talk about the term called energy, we come with the various types of energy what we just use in our real life existence. So here we are going to look into the concept called classifications of energy. So we are going to look over the topic called classifications of energy. So when we just talk about the classification of energy, where the energy gets classified into two major conditions. One is based on the traditional use. Where the energy classification of energy resources gets classified into two major parts. One is based on the traditional use and another one is based on long-term availability. So from this term we may be able to understand. First condition, they have mentioned that based on traditional use. So what do we mean by tradition? For example, whenever we do celebrate festivals, when we just do celebrate festivals, we just come with the idea that traditional cultures, whatever we just follow, or traditional festivals. For example, Pongal is a traditional festival, or the culture what we just follow, which is traditional in sense which we people have been following it for a long period of time, where we just follow the same methodology for a long period of time. For example, either it might be a Pongal. I'm just giving as an example. Pongal is the festival of harvesting. We all are familiar about it. Apart from the religion, it is common to everyone else. Where, especially in Tamil Nadu, we celebrate festival of harvesting, which we just call it as Pongal. Okay, apart from all religion, it is common for everyone else. So, which we have been following, where our ancestors, they were the one who have just started following it. And after their generation by generation, we have been following it still now. That is what we just called as tradition. So, when we classify the energy resources, we classify them based on the traditional use, the way how we just use it. Okay, and another one is about based on the long-term availability, how it is going to be available. Okay, how long it is going to be available. For example, just consider, I have bought 10 kg of rice at my home and I brought it to home. So every day you just imagine that I cook almost 1 kg of rice. You imagine that I bought 10 kg of rice and every day I cook 1 kg of rice at my home for my family members. Fine. So as it continues, where totally I have only 10 kgs of rice. So by the 10th day, okay, when it comes as the 10th day, where the availability of the rice content will get over. So in the same manner, we just talk about the energy resources, about the availability, how long it has been available. So based on that, we classify the energy resources. So now we'll just look into the classification. So first thing is about based on traditional use. So based on traditional use, we classify the energy into two categories. One is about conventional and another one is about non-conventional. Fine. So what do you mean by conventional? The thing which we have been following for a long period of time. Any kind of practice that has been followed for a long period of time. For example, we'll just come with the idea, energy resources. So when we just talk about energy resources, we may have an idea that we may come with some examples. Okay, you people also know about it. I know it. Okay, so when I just ask you a question, what are the various energy resources do we have? You may say that we have coal, we have petroleum products, we have fossil fuels, we have wind energy, we have solar energy, we have nuclear energy. So these are the various ideas about the energy resources, whatever we just use in our day-to-day life activity. So the source of energy which has been used for a long period of time, okay, long period of time, in sense tradition, for a long period, we have been just using it for a long time. That is what we just call it as conventional energy. For example, you imagine about coal, because to produce electricity in thermal power plant, what do they do? They just burn coal. They burn coal. By burning the coal, with the help of the heat, they used to boil the water, and once the water gets boiled, it gives out steam. With the help of the steam, because we use steam to rotate the turbines. Turbine is nothing but a huge size fan blade, okay. We used to just rotate the turbine with the help of steam, because steam, when it comes out, it comes with high pressure. For example, imagine about a pressure cooker. Imagine about a pressure cooker. Than cooking food in an open vessel, cooking food in a pressure cooker, where the time consumed will be very less. Where, for example, to cook a food on an open vessel, it may take around half an hour. But to cook the same food with the help of a pressure cooker, it takes just 10 minutes of time. So, with the help of that, by burning the coal, they used to produce energy. By burning the coal, they used to produce energy. So, coal is the resource what we have been depending upon for a long period of time. Or, just imagine, we just talk about petroleum products, maybe petrol or diesel. You imagine about the vehicles, petrol and diesel vehicles. How long we have been using petrol and diesel vehicles? We may say that, sir, we have started using electric vehicles nowadays. Of course, but the usage of electric vehicle is from the past 3 to 4 years. And now only it has started increasing. Where the number of electric vehicles has started increasing in recent days. But for a long period of time, maybe more than 100 or more than 200 years, we have been depending upon the vehicles which runs with the help of petrol or diesel. That is what called as conventional. And non-conventional, something new. When we just talk about non-conventional energy, we just consider about something new here. Okay, we just talk about something new over here, which we use it as new. For example, nuclear energy. So nuclear energy, it means that where we use radioactive materials, nuclear materials. With the help of nuclear materials, we prepare energy. For example, best example, you all may heard about the term area called Kudangulam at Tamil Nadu. So Kudangulam is the best example, because Kudangulam is the area where we have nuclear reactor in Tamil Nadu, and we just produce nuclear energy in Tamil Nadu. Okay, or the tidal energy. With the help of the waves, we are able to produce energy, that we just call it as tidal energy. Okay, so these are some ideas about the non-conventional sources of energy. Okay, so I have just given just introduction to what is conventional energy and what is non-conventional energy. I have just given some idea, but we have not seen it clearly. Now, we'll just look into the next condition, what is called as based on long-term availability. When we just discuss about long-term availability, we just classify the energy resources into two categories. One is renewable source of energy and another one is non-renewable sources of energy. So what is the difference between renewable and non-renewable? That is what we are going to discuss over here. Okay, fine. Maybe from the term renewable energy and from the term non-renewable energy, I hope that you guys will be able to identify the difference between them. So what do you mean by renewable? Renew, which we will be able to bring it back, and the energy source can be used again and again. That is what we just call it as renewable energy sources. And non-renewable, once if it has been used, it cannot be brought back. That is the idea about the non-renewable. So renewable energy sources, the energy resource or the energy sources, what can be used again and again, we just call it as renewable energy. For example, by nature, that is most important. Can you see here? I've just given, there are some pictures which gives the idea about the renewable sources of energy. First idea, it gives the idea about the sun, which means the solar energy. Solar energy, every day we get sunlight. Every day we get sunlight. So with the help of sunlight, we are able to produce energy. So that is the most important discussion what we come across. So we just say it has to be renewable. Next thing, it's about a blade, a fan, which gives the idea about the wind energy. Fine. Okay, so wind energy, where we have wind, okay, where air is present everywhere and the wind circulation is also there, especially the areas near to the hilly areas or like a tunnel. Okay, those areas where the flow of air will be very high. So depending upon the rate of flow of wind, we produce energy, which we just call it as wind energy. And next thing we discuss about water. Water we just call it as hydro energy. So with the help of flow of water, or either we just use the running water, or which we just call it as falling water, waterfalls. From that we will be able to produce energy, which we just call it as hydro energy. And next thing, they just shown a plant, which means it talks about the biosources. Biosources in sense where the natural sources what is been available. Okay, which we just we come across the idea about the biomasses. And non-renewable, you just see here the first idea, it gives the information about almost the coal products. We use coal products. And next thing, it gives the idea about the natural gases. This picture, it gives the idea about the natural gases. When we dig the ground to get the petroleum products, the first layer, it will be filled with gases. And those gases are called as natural gases. And with the help of them, we can produce energy. And next thing, it's about this picture gives the idea about the oil well. Maybe we used to say, okay, Dubai. Once we just comes about Emirates, we just come with the idea that where most probably wherever they dig, they used to get oil sources, where oil is nothing but crude oil. Where crude oil is refined, we just get petroleum products like diesel, and the refined form of diesel is nothing but the petrol, and the refined form of petrol we just get the almost like white petrol, almost the carbon content will get reduced over there. So this gives idea about the oil sources. And next thing, it's about the nuclear sources. So nuclear energy we mentioned, but the availability of nuclear material on the earth is very low on comparatively. Maybe in chemistry you might have learnt about the terms called minerals and ore. When we just say ore, it means that the availability of the particular material may be high in content. Minerals, the availability of the material will be very low. For example, I just give a small example over here. We all are familiar about Tata Motors. They are familiar everywhere. I mean, almost like not only in sector of motors, they have steel, their own iron and steel industries. They have motor vehicles industries. So likewise, they have everywhere, they have their products. And Tata is famous for its iron and steel industry. Especially they have their iron and steel industry at Jamshedpur in North India. Especially why do they prefer that particular location is actually because those area, it has more amount of iron content on the earth or on the soil. Is iron available only at Jamshedpur? No, even at Silapadi it is available. But the content, availability of the material will be very low. If the availability is going to be very low, we just call it as minerals. If the availability is going to be more, we call it as ores. That is what you might have learnt in your chemistry. Okay, in the same way, we just talk about the nuclear materials, nuclear sources. So the availability of nuclear sources is very low. Till we have the nuclear source, we may be able to produce nuclear energy from nuclear sources. So here, these all non-renewable energy sources are available on the earth at a low rate, in a low quantity. If these availability gets existed, okay, if it has been utilized completely, then we may not have any other sources. That is what we just call it as non-renewable energy sources. So if we just come with a short idea, what is renewable energy sources? Renewable energy, when you just talk about a renewable resources, is one that can be used repeatedly and does not run out because it is naturally replaced. That is most important. They just mentioned the term. Just look at the term. The energy source that can be used repeatedly in sense again and again we can just use it, and does not run out, which means do not get over, which does not run out in sense it do not get over because it is naturally replaced. For example, water, if it gets over, once again it will be replaced when we just get rain. Sunlight, every day we just get sunlight. So that is the idea what we come across. So a renewable resource is one that can be used repeatedly and does not run out because it's naturally replaced. Next thing, here I just give some idea about the renewable energy sources, what we just use. First is about solar power, next is about hydroelectric power, and next is about biofuel, then tidal power, or maybe geothermal energy or wind energy. These all are some examples about the renewable energy sources. So the next content is about what is non-renewable energy sources. So what is non-renewable energy sources? So we have discussed about renewable sources, energy sources. Okay. So when we just discuss about renewable source of energy, we came with the idea that where the energy source can be used repeatedly and does not run out, and because it is naturally replaced. Now we discuss about non-renewable sources. So a non-renewable energy resource are such that once these resources are used up, they cannot be replaced. That is the most important idea. So if we have been using the energy sources, once if it is over, which means once if it is completed, again it cannot be replaced. It cannot occur. For example, we may say, sir, fossil fuels, coal or petroleum products. So these all are the fossil fuels. But for the formation of fossil fuels, it may take millions of years. So at once, it cannot be replaced. So that is the most important idea why we say even coal, petroleum products all as the non-renewable energy sources. So a non-renewable energy resources are such that once these resources are used up, they cannot be replaced. So here I have just given some examples about the non-renewable energy sources. So about the coal products, fossil fuels, in since both coal, it also comes under fossil fuel. Okay, oil, petrol, crude oil, diesel, these all comes about the idea about the fossil fuels. And next thing, it's about the nuclear energy sources, and next it's about the natural gases. So these all gives the idea about the non-renewable energy sources. And finally, we just come with the idea concept called what is a good source of energy? So these all content what we have been discussing is on your page number 242 and 243 in our textbook, 242 and 243. So the main idea is, what is a good source of energy? We all say we all have different sources of energy, like coal or petroleum products or diesel, or it might be biofuel or biomass, or it may be, as we just said, nuclear energy or tidal energy. So whatever it might be, among all these sources of energy, which is going to be called as a good source of energy? So that is the idea what we are going to have discuss here. So the concept about a good source of energy is, first thing, which would do a large amount of work per unit volume or mass. For example, just consider, I use two different sources for cooking. For cooking, just consider that I use two different sources of energy. One is by burning wood, and another one is I'm just using the natural gas, CNG, compressed natural gas, or maybe LPG, liquefied petroleum gas stove. So on comparing with both the conditions, which is going to be a good source of energy, either wood or the gas, we may come with the answer that where gas is the good source of energy. Reason, first condition, it gives a constant heat. Second condition, it has a high calorific value. Calorific value is nothing but the amount of heat energy. It talks about the energy source, amount of energy what has been supplied. Okay, and next thing, it do not gives out smoke. Comparatively, when you burn a wood, it gives out smoke, but gas stove, it do not gives out smoke, which means non-pollution, where it do not give pollution. So these are some ideas. Comparatively, we just say which is going to be good and not good. So to discuss or to decide about the good sources of energy, we come with some idea which would do a large amount of work per unit volume or mass. Next thing, easily accessible, which means it should be easy for everyone to utilize it, to get it or to reach out it. So that is most important. And next thing, easy to store. Of course, it's most important because fuels, they are highly flammable. So storage is most important. It should not get affected, or it should not get burnt, or it should not get into any accident, fire accidents. So that is most important, how to store it. So easy to store. And next thing, easy to transport, because the fuels whatever we have been using will not be, we do not get all the fuel in the same area. So where the fuel has to be transported from one area to another area. For example, okay, oil well we have in Dubai. For example, I'm just giving an example. So from there, where the fuel content is being exported to different countries, and from the head of the country, from there to it reaches all the domestic areas. That is most important. So easy to transport. And last condition is called be economical. What do you mean by economical? Economical in sense where the price amount, it should be affordable. It should be cheap so that everyone can buy. That is most important. But nowadays, where the fuel rate has been keep on increasing. I think today the rate of fuel is around 103 per liter. Petrol is going to be more than 103. So that is the situation what we face every day. So the ideas which gives about the good sources of energy is one, which would do a large amount of work per unit volume or mass, easily accessible, easy to store, easy to transport, and be economical. So the next idea is about what is a good fuel. Fine. Fuel is nothing but the source what is used to run the vehicle, or maybe the machinery parts, whatever it might be. We just say it will be fuel. Okay, so what is a good fuel? A good fuel is one which is cheap. That is the most important condition. As I just mentioned, everyone should be able to get it. So it should be cheap. Next thing, easily available. As we discussed all the points for the good source of energy. And next thing, easy to handle. That is most important. Okay, by having the fuel, if it is going to be complex, if it is going to be critical by handling, then it may not be handled by everyone. So easy to handle. Then transport and easy to transport. It is also most important. And next thing, has proper ignition temperature. Proper ignition temperature is nothing but the fuel, whatever the fuel you use, the ignition temperature is most important. Ignition temperature, it means that at what particular temperature where the fuel can get burnt. For example, just consider, I take a piece of paper and I take a piece of wood. I burn with the help of a flame. Okay, I burn it with the help of a flame. When you just look into a paper, it catches fire at once with a small flame. But wood, it takes somewhat time to burn, or it takes somewhat time to catch fire. So that is about called ignition temperature. So you understand, I think so. So ignition temperature is nothing but the particular temperature at what the substance may be able to catch fire. Okay, and the last thing is about high calorific value. It talks about the energy level, the amount of energy what can be given out. So it should give high energy. So high and a calorific value. So that is the most important conditions whatever we see over here. So hope you students just understand the concepts whatever we have seen today. In next session, we'll discuss in detail about the conventional and non-conventional sources of energy. In case if you have any doubts, we'll get clarified in our doubt session period, and I'll meet you in the next session. Thank you. Have a great day.